we're super excited to be moderating the session with all of you guys. I've known you guys for many years. But before we start, I just wanted to start off with a brief introduction about your company, for the listeners, and also about you as a founder. Maybe we can start with Jackson first.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Jackson. I'm the CEO and founder of Mighty Jaxx. Mighty Jaxx is a toy collectible and lifestyle brand. We work with entertainment companies across the board to create such products, distributing to 80 over countries worldwide.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Sociolla. So 10 years ago, we started as a simple e-commerce company focusing on beauty and personal care. And thanks to its ventures, I think we're lucky to be trusted. We get the first check from them. And then fast forward today, we grew from the single e-commerce company to become a full-fledged of ecosystem. And we are currently also running in 2 countries, which is Indonesia and Vietnam. And we are also expanding to mom and babies as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Winston Utomo from IDN. IDN is the leading media and entertainment technology company in Indonesia. We have over 80 million unique audience across our ecosystem. We started IDN in 2014, me and my brother and partner William. In 2014, now we have grown to have 4 business pillars: digital media, live streaming, entertainment, and creators economy. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Melvin, one of the co-founder and CEO of RPG Commerce. We are a house of brands, direct-to-consumer, omni-channel player based out of Malaysia, Singapore. Today, between 2 countries, we have our largest brand, Montego, that operates about 50 over retail stores in Malaysia and Singapore directly. Thank you.
All right, thanks guys. And we'll be diving right into it. And obviously, when we look at Southeast Asia as a whole, in terms of the consumer market, there's obviously a big market out there. But having said that, have you noticed, the first question being, any shifts, like major shifts in terms of consumer behavior or any opportunities that you see in the market that is helping to shape your as a strategy as a founder? For this one, maybe Winston, I noticed you had the micro media app, right? Just upside at the booth right there, and you have live streaming and a number of consumer apps dominantly in Indonesia. Maybe you can take that, the first question.
Thank you, Yoshi. So post-COVID, one big shift that we see, as mentioned earlier, is the shift from product economy to experience economy. So now young people, 40 years old and below, they want to live more in the moments. They want to go to spend their money rather than owning things, but to spend on something that they can feel happy, they can share with one another, and so on. So because of that shift that we see quite fundamental, many of our innovation in IDN in the past 2 years has been toward those shifts. First, for example, we are focusing on live entertainment. We have music festival, we have idol group called JKT48. We are launching a new one later this year. We have movie business and so on. The second one we just launched actually last month is micro drama. So in China now, as you know, there is a very big trend. It's micro drama. It's a 90 minutes drama divided into 90 episodes or 100 episodes, 1 minute every episode. In China, the market now is even bigger than the box office or the cinema market. So we see that this is a very big opportunity. We launched it in Indonesia, our own version of it, and it has been grow quite well. With very limited marketing budget, we have more than 1 million episodes has been watched in the past 30 days. So actually there is a product market fit and there is a demand for this kind of platform. So to summarize, live entertainment, micro drama, and many others are our main focus right now because we see there is a shift from product economy to experience economy.
Right, to the experience. Okay, thanks so much. And just riding on that same question, actually, Melvin, how many outlets do you have with your Montego brand across Southeast Asia now?
Today we have 53 outlets.
Okay, and then you're expanding outside Southeast Asia as well.
Correct.
So just in terms of like additional vantage point, looking at across the region, like what's your insights or your views for the same question?
I think echoing what Winston said, post-pandemic, I think consumers shifted in a way that the traditional consumers or traditional brands back then used to be very top-down. You have the best feature, you have the best performance, you have the best product. But I think in this generation, it's very bottoms up. sort of approach for consumer brands, right? I think consumers today can differentiate very clearly between what is a very clear advertisement versus what is organic in the market. And hence the entire hybrid happens between online and offline and of course experiential. We started out our first retail store about 3 years ago in Malaysia. We came from a pure digital business, never knew how to build retail stores. And I think when we built retail stores, we knew that the thesis of building a retail store is to not sell product on the shelf. If we were to be a retail store just to sell products on the shelf, I don't think we would survive. And the whole goal behind was about experiential retail. Today, if you happen to go to any of our Montego stores across Singapore and Malaysia, you'll see that it's a very experiential retail, where you come in, you play with the product, you customize your product, it's full of IPs, it's full of emotional attachments to it, and that's how we sell our products today. So I think to sum it up, there's a huge shift happen in the entire consumerism, at least in Southeast Asia market, where digital media became so transparent, people could get information so easily, price comparison became so sensitive that people wanted to experience that in person. And I think today we went from a pure 100% digital business, retail storefronts is 50% of our business today, and online is only about 40% of our business, and the other 10% is in B2B. So I think there's a omni-channel shift that happened in the entire market.
All right, thanks for that. And I think with any opportunity comes challenges, right? And so if they're a big enough market, there's always competition, of course, from the local startups, but also from the global brands as well. Maybe in terms of competing against them and holding your position to be on the defense or even expand the market share. How are you guys seeing that in terms of your strategy? Maybe Chris, you have more than 100 outlets across the country, right? With the O2O strategy, if you can take that question.
Yeah, because I think when people look at the Southeast Asia market, they tend to look at it as one big market, but actually it is very different between one country and another, right? So hyper-localization is very important because let's say even in Indonesia, the behavior of the customers in the big cities is also quite different with the behavior in a smaller city. And then I think with the advancement of technology and the social media, the customers tends to be more advanced. They have, instead of like focusing on choosing the FOMO, like when they buy the product just because of the advertisement, now they are become more sort of like demanding in terms of like what is really useful for them, right? So I think it's all about the experience as well, and how can you build the team in a very hyper-local way. So in our case, we did everything in-house, more like from the technology as well as from the community. We try to make that quite local in a way that we can become much closer to the ground compared to the global, because if you try to use the playbook from the global and then try to implement in Southeast Asia, I think it's going to be a bit of not that easy because there's a lot of culture as well in here.
Okay. Yeah, so stickiness is key in building that, right, to continue competing. And maybe Jackson, you have a global partnership with the global brand as well, and selling outside of South Asia, but internationally. Maybe you could provide your vantage point on that question.
Yeah, so we have both external and internal factors. So external being companies that we work with, for example, Warner Brothers. They would invite us to like a Supergirl set, to see some of the early previews of things and determine if it will create that fanfare that the IP would have or not. And often it's hard to say, right? Because it's, the traction of it comes after the launch of such a major release like that. But if we look at top 10 Netflix or any kind of streaming channels, entertainment giants, then that gives us an insight of what each different territory would like, and it diverges greatly. So the question for us is, how do we create the right kind of products for the right kind of geography? And so if we look at internal look of things, how do we gather the data information? So our products are selling in 25,000 points. That is, give or take, anywhere from 80 to 100 different competitors in the retail space. And so we are able to see across the board, these 100 competitors and their stores, what kind of IPs work well in whatever geography. So we take the external factor, combine it with the internal factor, and that gives us our best chance of creating a winning product.
Wow. All right. And just moving on to the next question, right? And the first two questions was quite easy for you guys, but maybe a little bit more tougher questions around some of the, with any market, there's always some concerns, risks that's rising at the moment. But so maybe in terms of like some concerns around the health of the middle income, right? How are you guys seeing that are you guys seeing that as a challenge, or you see more opportunities just going ahead in the long term? Like how are you seeing that from the ground up, operating locally and looking at the region? Maybe Chris, you want to take that?
Yep. Okay, I think very interesting because I think Indonesia is one of the very young country, and then the middle income are also growing quite strong as well. So if you see the consumption's behavior from the middle income for the last 5 years, I think every year there's a bit of shift depending on the situations. But one thing for sure, I think they have been adapting very well in terms of like I mentioned earlier, they are more demanding in terms of like the products that they need because they have more access to the informations. At the end of the day, it's not so much about how can we sell the products or how can we basically push the products to them, but how can we build the experience around it, and then at the same time also try to understand them much better as well, so that we can provide the best solutions for them. It's more like the customizations, and then with the today's world where I think there's a lot of like offers from AI and the help of the technology as well, I think it's become more possible as well. At the same time, they also demand much more kind of like, I mean, they change the products they use quite often instead of like stick to one brand, right? So that has become quite a challenge. But I think in the next 3 to 5 years, I think I'm still quite optimistic about the growth of the middle income in the Southeast Asia at least, because I think it's one of the most interesting part the consumer group as well.
Yeah, we continue to believe so. And just to extend the question on that, Chris, actually is on looking at it from a different perspective, which is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. I know you have outlets across these different tiers. How are you seeing that from that perspective?
Yeah, okay. I think we do have back then when COVID happened, right? It's the first time when we are moving from the online to become offline, and then within 2 years we managed to open up like 50 locations in I think around 25 cities. And then from there, we see the behavior of the customers in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities actually very interesting. So over there, actually the demand is always be there, right? So there is no issue with the demands. It's more that they don't have the access. So access has become the main issue. They are quite digital savvy. They are quite informative in a way that they know what they want to buy, but there is no access to it. So for the last 2 years, actually post-pandemic, we focus much more into the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And then the result is also quite interesting as well when we see it from the perspective of the behavior. Even though, and one of the good things is as well, like we have less competition over there as well, right? So we, as soon as we can provide the right products to them and understand the customers, and from the ecosystem approach, I think it's something that we can do much better than the others, right? And then when we know and when we provide the right products to them, demand is always there. So I guess the growth is still gonna be quite strong for the next 3 to 5 years as well.
All right, that's great to know. And just moving on, things are changing as we speak. And of course, we had that tariff, but the situation has improved in the last 2 days. But having said that, maybe Melvin, you want to take this question. Are you seeing any changes in terms of consumer spending, even brand switches, any of the behaviors that you're observing from the ground up? And maybe, just looking at multi-countries as well.
Sure, I think we are living in a region where we are very price sensitive, at least speaking on behalf of like countries like Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, so on and so forth. And that also means that consumers' life cycle or journey will be even shorter. And that leads to even more brands going to compete in the market, but that also means that there's more options for consumers to switch brands. So I think as a consumer brand, we always ask ourselves, how do we out-engage the larger brands with larger budgets and whatnot? And I think earlier I mentioned about how do we do bottoms-up sort of marketing today. It's a lot on community engagement. It's a lot on like being on the ground, engaging with consumers and really understanding what sort of products we should launch into the market. And answering the questions on like, does it impact consumers in this market? I do think that today is not about who has larger budgets, who has better products. I think those are all table stakes in the market. But how do we out-engage these brands? And I don't think consumers are retracting in spending, but I think consumers are reprioritizing where they are spending their wallet share across different brands. So in our point of view of building a brand, being on the ground, building communities is always the key in the market.
And maybe Winston, right? Just adding onto that, you have idol groups, you have a lot of entertainments, and some of the consumers have different wallets, so to speak, for spending on. How are you seeing that across your platforms, different products that you offer?
Thank you, Yoshi. So maybe I answer from more a holistic view. Yeah. I think the main challenge, even with our industry and with many of our colleagues as well, is the perception of economic downturn is bigger than the fundamental of economic downturn itself. Like Wilson spoke in the opening speech, right? It's just one, two negative news or negative statistic being overblown, and then as a result, no one is being very pessimistic. People think that everything will turn into buzz. However, first, it's not correct. And second, business is all about confidence. Without confidence, there is no optimism. And when there is no optimism, people are not spending money. And when people are not spending money and when people save the money, the economic wheel does not turn. And that's where all the business get a negative impact. So I think it's our job here, even IDN job as a media as well, how to create more positive story to make people have more confidence so everyone will spend more. And relating that to our business, in IDN, 80% of our revenue comes from advertising. So the bread and butter of our business, even though we have many products, consumer products, live entertainment and so on, 80% is advertising. And in advertising, the way how we were able to manage to grow the advertising business, the cycle of advertising is there is the first impression, first brand recall, second brand recall, third brand recall, and then the conversion. The conversion part, the performance-based marketing, we don't want to touch because it's a global tech giant like Facebook, Meta, TikTok, they're winning over it. But people should not forget that there is the whole cycle of advertising, which is the first impression, first brand recall, second brand recall. This is how we grow. And if the economic is good, all companies will spend more on advertising. And usually when they spend more on advertising, they will spend more on the brand building part. And when they spend more on the brand building part, our revenue will hopefully continue to grow. So that's my take. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And I just want to wrap up with one final question. And this is actually for each of the panelists, given we have a couple minutes. So just looking at next 5 to 10 years, so obviously there's market there in South Asia. We're very excited. Are there untapped maybe market segment, customer segment, or even new business models that you're observing outside of the market that you think might fit in well, or anything else that you think you'll be focusing on as part of your strategy for the next 5 years? Maybe Jaxx, you want to start it off and we go one by one?
Yeah, so the idea of selling content and cultural designs that we come up with and then commercialize them really allow us to tap onto a wide variety of product lines. So we should see our collectibles expanding to a lot more different SKUs in lifestyle component. But importantly, I think innovation has always been key of the company.
I guess I think now what is interesting to us, right? Because we have been in the business of ecosystem and building the whole what's so-called as a trust business, right? In a way, so it's not only beauty and personal care. Because we managed to build the whole ecosystem in terms of like the tech infrastructures, logistic, as well as the operation infrastructures. I think it's very interesting to see that. The trust is not only needed in the beauty. I think it's also needed in mom and babies. It's also needed in the men categories. It's also needed in health. So there's a lot of opportunities that I think we can capture because we have built the whole infrastructures. And it's by using the same infrastructures and using the same approach, the market in Southeast Asia, I think we are lucky in the market where the growth is very strong, and especially in these segments. And the behavior of the consumer also supporting that, right? Like I mentioned earlier, that they are now become more advanced in a way of adopting the product. So it's not all about how to be able to sell them more, but it's how to be able to understand and how to be able to become one of the trusted partner for them.
In IDN, we are bullish with 3 things right now. The first one is live entertainment. So we are expanding our idol groups. We're launching one more later this year and next year one more. And then we are doing music festival. We have Pesta Pora, 110,000 people in Jakarta. We are doing it in Malaysia in July. So we're going to do focus and double down on the live entertainment. The second one is micro drama. I think it's a very exciting opportunity for us. We are now the only player in Indonesia, and we believe that this is going to be very big in the next few years. And we're going to launch not only Indonesia, but the next quarter we're going to launch the Southeast Asia version of the app. We only want to focus on the Southeast Asia, not outside Southeast Asia. That's second micro drama. And the third one, anything related to creators economy. So I think it's going to be big. Why creators or anything related to creators are very big? This is the derivative of the social media power. Because everyone now consuming social media, many of you at least spend 1-2 hours a day on social media. And as a result, there are many people are becoming creators. So we are facilitating them to earn more money, to earn more income, to work with brands and so on.
How many creators are on your platform?
Yes, we have 3 types of creators. The first one is exclusive. Exclusive means it's owned by us, managed fully by us. The second one is long-term creators. And the third one is more into ad hoc creators. The second one, the long-term creators, is what give us competitive edge compared to others. Because earlier I spoke with someone and they asked me, how can you get a good margin in the creators? So the way I do is very long-term. So let's say, Yoshi, you are a very famous creators. Let's say one post worth $500. I don't only buy one. I leverage I buy 100 from you. But I ask for a very big discount and I trade that to compare to all brands because we already have like 100 plus brands as our clients. So how we become the good platform to connect all the creators to brand, that's how we do it and we can grow. Yeah, so those 3 things, live entertainment, micro drama, and creators are 3 things that we are very bullish right now.
Thank you so much. And Melvin?
Thanks. I think at RPG we are very bullish about retail consumer. At least I don't think we are here to reinvent the wheel. We're here to re-strategize, reorganize the wheel in consumer market. We believe that omni-channel is here to stay, or retail is at least is here to stay. Coming from the landscape of digital business, moving to offline business or B2B business later on, we believe that the future is to build a multi-stack revenue contribution business. And to us today, Montego has 50 over stores. By the end of this year, we'll hit 70 stores. And then the next plan for Montego is to go global. So we're going to Thailand with Central Group, Indonesia with a distributor, and Middle East with another retail group as well. So that will allow Montego to propel across the group, the global. And on the home ground end, we have created sub-brands under Montego that will replicate into the locations that Montego is already in. So that created that entire moat in real estate. And we know in retail, real estate is a huge moat within the retail ecosystems and the know-how to build the operational challenges and so on and so forth. So I think over the next few years, we're quite bullish to hit the 100 mark or at least $100 million mark with at least 15-20% on our bottom line over the next couple of years. So I think I'm excited and of course very supportive investors here. Thank you.
And Melvin, just one last question for you. Like I know you have a lot of branches in Malaysia and Singapore. What's your favorite? Which one is your favorite outlet in Singapore that we should all visit?
Sure. Feel free to visit our Orchard Ion store. We're at B2 next to Lush, next to Smeagol. Visit our store there today. Thanks.
Okay, great. Yeah. So thank you so much for the market insights. And could we get a round of applause for the panelists here today?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.